Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My father, 63, left my mom, 62, when I, 37, was 10 years old. He was having a baby with his girlfriend, now wife, 50. My mom was a stay-at-home mom and didn't finish college. She had gotten pregnant with my older brother, 42. My father was a jerk and made the divorce as crappy as possible for my mom. We ended up moving in with my paternal grandparents. He was their only child and they were disappointed in him. They helped my mom go back to school. Once she finished school, she wanted to pay them back, but they wouldn't let her. They also basically disowned my father. He was invited over for Thanksgiving and Christmas, but that was about it. They did love their other grandchildren, though. They always provided gifts and contributed to their education. My grandmother passed away a few years ago from breast cancer, and my grandfather passed away last year. And he left everything to my brother and I. It wasn't a huge estate, and it's not life-changing money, but my brother and I are well established in our careers. They left my father $500. The lawyer explained that it was a way of avoiding him being able to challenge the will. They also left each of my half-siblings $10,000. My brother and I each got over $100,000. My grandfather said that since my brother and I had grown up without a father, by his choice, but his other children had, then he felt this was fair. He also left my mom his house and some money. She had been taking care of them for a long time, and they never stopped thinking of her as a daughter. My father approached my brother and I recently, saying that his other kids are struggling with finance, and that we should split everything with them since we really don't need the money. He also tried to get my mom to renounce her inheritance. She laughed in his face and asked for all the child support he owed. I get that it's not my half-siblings' fault, but they had a dad to take care of them growing up, and we didn't. So neither my brother or I agreed to share. Now my father, his wife, and all my half-siblings are calling us a-holes for being so greedy and not helping them through the hard time they are going through. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Yes, $100,000 is a lot of money. When I said it wasn't life-changing, I meant that I would still have to work for a living. I would still have to save for my retirement. I would still have a mortgage. I hope I didn't come off as 1%. Not the a-hole. You know that your sperm donor isn't going to leave you or your brother anything when he dies. Your grandmother and grandfather loved you and wanted to help you guys. And I'm glad your mom had their support. They sound like wonderful people. Think about it this way, OP. Your father wasn't only physically present for his younger children, he was financially present too. Every dollar that should have gone to child support for your brother and you was kept by him to raise his other kids. And that way, you've already given your half-siblings tens of thousands of dollars that were rightfully yours. Your grandparents were righting a historic wrong with their own money, even though the wrong was not theirs. It was both fair and thoughtful of them. Not the a-hole. You don't owe your half-siblings anything. This is your grandparents trying to do right by you after failing to raise a son that would. I'm happily married. My husband and I have known each other since high school and have been together for about 12 years. I currently out-earn my husband as we are in the UK and he is a doctor. While he could try and go into private practice in the future, he wants to stay near the ground and help those who need it in the NHS rather than cash out, which is 100% understandable and one of the reasons I love him. Because I out-earned my husband and he had a decent bit of student loans. He was sadly classed as an international student, so UK med school did cost him quite a bit. I helped him pay off his loans. I think that it's a pretty simple thing to do, that if one of us doesn't have financial freedom, then neither of us do. And, well, if I wouldn't even do that for him, what's marriage even about? Just saying I love you and then living like your roommates? My co-workers and I are pretty close, mainly because I knew about half of them from university, and most of us are of similar age. I told them about me paying off my husband's student loans. So I was telling my co-workers this at lunch. The main young friend group is sitting at one table in the mess area, and at the time, one of the other ladies is sitting alone at a table near us. I'll try to be unbiased towards this lady, but the gist is most of us dislike her. She's very problematic and old-fashioned, rarely doing things according to the current accepted methods, often forcing us to do stuff we're not meant to do, simply to go along with her doing her own thing. She's nosy, giving advice where we simply don't want it. Basically, I'm saying all of the things that I mentioned in the third paragraph about how helping my husband pay off his loans is part of what marriage is about, pooling resources from the greater benefit of the couple, so on. I went a bit more in depth about why I helped him, but the gist of it was, why would I get married if I didn't do that? Now, the older lady ends up overhearing this conversation and butts in, asking me why I did that, and how it's my money and my husband got himself into debt. She then basically started attacking my husband, basically calling him a leech. She also acted very concerned for me and said this: "Don't you know it's common for doctors to marry girls, use them to pay off their debts, and then dump them and move up in the world? Aren't you worried that's what he's doing to you?" I just laughed and said if I didn't trust my husband enough that he loved me for me, then by marrying him, I'd be the most stupid girl on the planet. She started crying and stormed out. I was then called into my boss's office and told to apologize to her. Apparently, I had humiliated her, invalidated her current marriage, and basically called her stupid for her first marriage, because her current marriage was completely split finances, and her first marriage was with a doctor that left her after her loans were paid. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Refuse to apologize. She invalidated your marriage. You just replied about your marriage. Tell the boss you will not apologize, but he can feel free to send both of you to HR, because there's a lot of witnesses. Not the a-hole. Not even close. In fact, I'm laughing with you. She invited herself into the conversation, and you didn't say anything at all about her marriages. She internalized your outlook on marriage and hurt her own feelings after you rejected her unsolicited attempts to project her baggage onto you. She quite literally ducked around and found out. Not the a-hole. She did not say that her ex-husband, the doctor, left her after she paid his debts. How are you to know that? This is really an outdated attitude, that we have to mind read people. You did not insult her. She chose to be insulted because your comment clearly indicated you would be the stupidest girl. I hope you did not apologize, and if you did, you might want to have another meeting with your boss and the stuck-in-her-ways woman and make it clear you were speaking about yourself, and anyone who claims you were insulting them needs to take ownership of their feelings and stop expecting others to read their minds or learn things about coworkers by being nosy. You were speaking about yourself, and if she feels comfortable with divided finances in her personal life, that's her decision, not yours. Say, "I refuse to be responsible for Name's private decisions." 6 years ago, my sister was diagnosed with terminal cancer. She died 8 months later. The 8 months before her death, she begged Dad to do some stuff without his wife and stepdaughter and give her some memories of us together with our mom and him. He agreed. His stepdaughter was 6 at the time and knew us most of her life, so I know she was confused when she no longer saw my sister at all, and then she was told she died. Not to mention why the man she called Dad was gone so much. My dad wanted my sister to let his wife and stepdaughter be at her bedside with the rest of the family, but she said they weren't her family and refused. She died with me, Mom, Dad, and our grandparents at her side. Right after my sister died, my dad and I had a huge falling out. He wanted me to move in with him, and he wanted me to shower his stepdaughter with the same love I showered my sister with. He told me I needed to be her big brother for real now, because it was going to be a lot harder for her. I told him I would never feel the same for her as I did my sister, and I did not want to pretend I cared about her at that time. He told me I owed them all. He includes his wife in that, because I was the last sibling left and needed to make up for my sister shutting stepsister out at the end of her life. Dad and I did not talk after our argument until he reached out 3 months ago. It started with him wanting to know how I was doing, but then he told me how his stepdaughter missed me and my sister, and how she struggled with not saying goodbye to her sister, and why she didn't get to see her before she died, why she had nothing of hers to hold on to, how she asked a lot about why I wasn't around anymore. He asked me to talk to her and tell her that my sister had wanted to see her and to help her believe that she was loved and wanted by her, and that my sister asked for her a lot at the end. I told him I would not lie for him. He snapped at me and said I owed her this much when I abandoned her just like my sister had for no other reason than she wasn't our bio sister and wasn't enough for us to love. He told me I should be a better man than that. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If that is the story your dad wants to tell her, that is his business. You do not owe anyone a lie that changes the memories of your sister. You don't owe your dad or stepsister a lie to appease some fairy tale your dad told. Not the a-hole. Your dad, on the other hand, massive. He hasn't spoken to his own son in 6 years, and now, instead of listening or making up with you, his own child, he wants you to lie about your dead sister so some 12-year-old you're not related to feels better about herself. She hasn't seen you since she was 6, kindergarten, and has now lived another 6 years past that. And he claims she talks about you guys? Please. Here's my guess. Because your father wants to make her feel better at times the past 6 years. He has been making up stories telling her how special she is, how important she is, blah, blah, blah. And now he needs you to back up his lies. It was not and is not your job to make your stepsister feel better because your sister died and only wanted the people closest to her around. It is not your job to deliver self-esteem on demand. You know who needs to be a better man? Your father. Not the a-hole. And I don't think you should lie. But please try to have some empathy for his stepdaughter. She probably doesn't remember a time before you and your sister were in her life, and she loved you and your sister. Neither of you loved her back. That's painful for a kid to have to wrap her head around. Maybe talk to her at some point and acknowledge that all this was hard for her, and make it clear that it's not her fault that you disappeared from her life. Your relationship with your father was just too messy for you to visit after your sister died. I work for a pretty pretentious company where everyone tries to kiss the boss's butt. We have a huge holiday party every year. It is always a fancy venue, cocktail attire, and great food. When I first started working there, it was something I was excited to take my wife to, but it is now something I dread. My wife gets herself so stressed over it that she's miserable for weeks leading up to it. She agonizes over what to wear, always goes over budget, and spends the whole day on hair and makeup. Then when we get there, she honestly embarrasses me, and again, I feel like crap. Every year she tries so hard to befriend my boss's wife, who clearly wants nothing to do with her, and literally looks at her husband like, "Save me." I always feel my boss is laughing at me. Then she spends the next couple days making fun of my boss's wife and calling her a B, which I'm terrified is going to get back to them, because you know how gossip works. It's all very hard for me to watch. I've tried to talk to her about her behavior, but she gets defensive and nothing changes. This year I just couldn't take it. I told her there wasn't going to be a party, just a lunch during the workday for employees only. My plan was to go alone and make an excuse for her. I hate lying, but I felt I'd given her multiple chances to change her behavior, so what am I going to do? At this point, she's hurting my career and hurting herself mentally. Unfortunately, she found out and is obviously furious. She feels I took away a huge night from her and is very hurt that I am embarrassed by her behavior. Everyone sucks here, but I don't know if I can blame you here. You shouldn't have lied, but also your wife should really act more appropriately and take the hint at this party. You're the a-hole. You lied to her about something very important and got found out. Of course she's hurt and furious with you. As I understand your motivation behind it, you know you shouldn't lie like this. What you should have done was sit down and have an adult conversation about it. Outline how this is potentially damaging to your career. All that about the boss's wife. Basically what you said to us, you should have said to her. I'll give a soft "you're the a-hole." Don't lie to your spouse, unless it's hiding a present from them. I get the company party being awful. I too dread them. But don't dump her at home and take yourself. Come on. Apologize for being an a-hole, and next year just take her out somewhere nice, and both of y'all skip the party. I, 55 male, have 2 adult children, 32 female, 34 male, from my first marriage. I've been divorced now 3 times, but I don't believe that means I should be alone forever, and I finally found happiness with a wonderful woman. My son didn't really want to meet her at first, but after a few months he did. My daughter hasn't met her yet. Anyway, at 6 months together, I brought her to the recital of my son's kids, and I posted pictures of me, girlfriend, grandkids all together on Facebook. My son has never said he has a problem with me posting pictures with his kids, and he didn't say anything about this after I did it. My daughter called me and said I shouldn't be posting that and it's tacky. I said, why? This is my girlfriend, and she was there, and they're great pictures. She says that the grandkids just had a different wife from me, that they thought was the grandma but wasn't really the grandma last year, and that I shouldn't be introducing someone to them at 6 months, and absolutely no pictures. Then she says I can't meet her new baby, she's pregnant, because I make everything about having a girlfriend front and center. I asked if I married my girlfriend if it would be appropriate then, and she said no, because marriage doesn't mean anything if it's a 4th marriage. Basically, it's like my daughter is saying I need to be alone forever from now on, or I can't be in the family anymore. Also, shouldn't my daughter stay out of the picture thing? I mean, they aren't her kids. Am I the a-hole? There's a big difference in I should be alone forever and my now adult children have watched me go through 3 failed marriages and are not interested in forming a relationship with my newest girlfriend, nor do they want their children to form a relationship with her, only to be disappointed when it doesn't work out. It's totally fine for you to find happiness and a partner. That doesn't mean that your children or grandchildren have to be interested in being a part of that relationship. You're the a-hole. Sounds like she never said you need to be alone forever, and you're purposely missing her point. Young children do not understand the concept of you trying out new girlfriends, and 3 women to a 6-year-old is confusing, and you shouldn't be bringing all these strangers around. You can have your girlfriends, but actually get serious with them for once before you start doing this crap. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. If you keep meeting, hooking up, and marrying new women, it probably caused your children a lot of stress and embarrassment, and they don't want the same for their children. You could keep your relationships private, as you obviously aren't really good at commitment, so there's no need to be introducing every partner to your family.